In just a few months, MetLife Stadium will host the 2026 FIFA World Cup Final, the biggest World Cup in history, featuring 48 national teams and 104 matches. But very few people know that this stadium was never originally built for soccer. The field is too narrow, the artificial turf is banned by FIFA, and the entire structure was designed for NFL football rather than world football. That forced engineers to remove thousands of seats, demolish sections of concrete seating areas, and reshape the geometry of the field to transform MetLife into a stadium capable of changing form. So how did they do it? Join Mandarin Tech as we explore the transformation of MetLife Stadium in today's video. MetLife Stadium is located in East Rutherford, New Jersey, just outside New York City, and is one of the largest stadiums in the United States, with a capacity of more than 82,000 spectators. This $1.6 billion mega project began construction in 2007 and was completed after nearly 3 years to become the shared home stadium of two NFL teams, the New York Giants and the New York Jets. But that very design later created a major problem when MetLife was selected to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup Final. American football uses a field that is about 110 meters long and only around 49 meters wide. Because of that, MetLife's concrete seating bowl was built extremely close to the field to maximize capacity and create an intense atmosphere for NFL games. FIFA, however, requires a soccer field that is up to 68 meters wide, along with additional safety zones for players, referees, and broadcast cameras. That meant the World Cup simply did not fit within MetLife Stadium's original geometry. And to transform an NFL fortress into the stage for the biggest match on Earth, engineers were forced to carry out a major reconstruction project directly inside the stadium itself. MetLife Stadium was never built with natural grass. For years, its playing surface used artificial turf, the preferred surface in the NFL because it can handle heavier usage schedules and the extreme impacts of American football. But for FIFA, that was almost completely unacceptable. As a result, before the 2026 World Cup, MetLife's entire artificial turf system had to be fully removed and replaced with one of the highest quality natural grass surfaces in the world. The problem, however, was that MetLife was never designed to sustain a living ecosystem. Beneath the old turf was concrete, drainage sand, and a foundation system built specifically for NFL requirements. Natural sunlight inside the stadium is inconsistent, while temperature and humidity constantly fluctuate because of the stadium's packed event schedule. To solve this problem, FIFA partnered with leading agronomy experts and adopted a remote grass-growing system at a specialized farm in North Carolina. Instead of planting directly inside the stadium, more than 7,000 square meters of natural grass were grown months in advance using a blend of 80% Kentucky bluegrass and 20% perennial ryegrass, two cold-season grass species known for durability, elasticity, and high-impact resistance. Engineers even used robotic foot simulators to recreate real match conditions, measuring everything from ball bounce to player traction. But the biggest difference was that the grass was not grown directly in soil. Instead, it was cultivated on a dense synthetic layer that allowed the roots to weave horizontally together rather than grow deep underground. During harvesting, the grass could then be cut into massive sections and rolled up without damaging the root system. Just weeks before the final, more than 7,000 square meters of grass were transported over 1,000 kilometers to New Jersey using 14 refrigerated trucks. Inside the trailers, temperatures were maintained at around 4 degrees Celsius, placing the grass into a temporary dormant state throughout the journey. At MetLife, the grass was installed onto a pre-built tray system. The most difficult part was aligning every tray with absolute precision. A misalignment of just a few centimeters in the first rows could eventually become an error of several dozen centimeters by the far end of the field. Because of that, specialized pulling and alignment equipment was constantly used to fine-tune the position of each tray during installation. Once completed, the seams between sections became almost completely invisible across the entire pitch. But from that moment onward, the grass entered an almost 24/7 maintenance cycle. Hundreds of LED grow lights simulating sunlight operated continuously inside the stadium. Industrial ventilation systems pushed air through the lower layers to prevent fungal growth and maintain a stable temperature of around 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. Sensors constantly monitored moisture levels, temperature, and root development. Every single day, the grass was cut precisely to around 25 to 30 millimeters to ensure ball speed always met FIFA standards. But the grass was only the surface layer of the problem, because underneath it, the actual geometry of MetLife Stadium still did not have enough space for a World Cup soccer field. And to solve that, engineers were forced to carry out an unprecedented structural operation, removing 1,740 seats along with entire concrete sections at the stadium corners. FIFA requires a soccer field that is at least 68 meters wide, along with additional safety zones for players, referees, and broadcast cameras. The real problem existed at the four corners of the stadium, where massive precast concrete seating sections extended deep into the space needed for the sidelines. The only possible solution was to permanently remove 1,740 seats and demolish the concrete structure beneath them. To begin the process, engineers from Skanska first carried out a full 3D laser scanning operation. Millions of laser pulses per second were fired from dozens of positions around the lower seating bowl, creating a digital replica of the entire structure with millimeter-level accuracy. Workers then used specialized diamond wire saw systems capable of cutting through reinforced concrete and steel with extremely high precision. Each seating section was temporarily supported before being lifted out by heavy cranes positioned directly on the field itself. The entire operation had to be carried out in short construction phases because MetLife still needed to continue hosting NFL games and other major events throughout the renovation process. And as the 1,740 seats and massive concrete corner sections gradually disappeared, the geometry of MetLife Stadium began to change for the first time since the day the stadium was originally built. After the old seating corners were removed, MetLife Stadium was left with four enormous empty gaps in its lowest seating level. But FIFA did not require the stadium to permanently sacrifice its NFL-style seating capacity just to host a few soccer matches. Instead of rebuilding the corners with permanent concrete structures like before, MetLife began installing a modular steel frame seating system that could extend outward or retract depending on the type of event being hosted. In NFL mode, the seating sections are pushed close to the field to preserve the intense atmosphere that American football is known for. But when switching to World Cup mode, the entire system retracts backward to widen the field and meet FIFA standards. Beneath the seating section sits a heavy-duty steel rail system combined with hydraulic locking mechanisms designed to secure the structure once it moves into position. The entire system had to be rigid enough to support the weight of thousands of spectators, while still remaining precise enough for the modules to slide smoothly and align perfectly with the stadium's original structure. The seating modules were prefabricated off-site before being transported to MetLife overnight using heavy-duty trucks. Giant cranes then lifted each section into its exact position, ensuring precise alignment between the rail systems and locking points. As a result, within a short period of time, MetLife gained the ability to transform between two completely different configurations: an NFL fortress with seating packed tightly against the field, or a FIFA standard World Cup stadium with the wider clearances required for international soccer. As the renovation work inside MetLife Stadium neared completion, an even larger phase began. Because the World Cup does not only require a stadium, it requires an entire operational ecosystem surrounding it. Just 30 days before the final, the area around MetLife began transforming into a temporary World Cup city. Media centers, fan festival zones, security checkpoints, VIP hospitality areas, traffic control hubs, and technical infrastructure started appearing almost simultaneously around the stadium. The security system alone became a massive operation. Thousands of surveillance cameras, multi-layer security barriers, metal detectors, identification systems, and rapid response teams were deployed throughout the entire area. Roads surrounding MetLife were constantly reconfigured to manage the movement of team buses, VIP convoys, technical vehicles, and the enormous crowds expected on match day. At the same time, the global broadcast infrastructure also began taking shape. Hundreds of kilometers of fiber optic cable, temporary data centers, commentary rooms, television control areas, and specialized camera platforms were installed throughout the stadium complex. The camera system for the World Cup Final alone required dozens of different positions to deliver live coverage to more than 1 billion viewers around the world. Every part of this temporary city, transportation hubs, fan zones, security barriers, VIP tents, and international media centers, was built using modular systems. They could be assembled within days, and more importantly, completely dismantled once the tournament was over. But have you ever wondered why FIFA chose MetLife Stadium to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup Final, even though it was originally built as an NFL stadium and presents major challenges for soccer? Especially when the 2026 tournament will be the biggest World Cup in history, featuring 48 national teams, 104 matches, and 16 host cities across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The reason is simple. FIFA was not just looking for a soccer stadium, they were looking for the operational center of a global broadcasting event. And in that regard, MetLife checks almost every box perfectly. The stadium sits just outside New York City, the financial, media, and tourism capital of the United States. Within just a few dozen kilometers of MetLife are multiple international airports, massive hotel networks, extensive rail systems, major highways, and some of the largest broadcast infrastructure in the world. The stadium also previously hosted Super Bowl 48, one of the most logistically complex sporting events in the United States in terms of security, transportation, and live broadcasting. More importantly, MetLife has a seating capacity of over 82,000 spectators, surpassing one of FIFA's most important requirements for a World Cup final venue. For FIFA, the final is not just about having a stadium that meets technical standards. It requires a location capable of handling hundreds of thousands of visitors, thousands of journalists, global television operations, and an enormous logistics network for weeks at a time. At first glance, MetLife may not seem ideal for soccer, but for hosting a World Cup final, it was almost the perfect choice. And to understand why MetLife Stadium eventually became the perfect choice for a World Cup final, despite never being built for soccer, we have to go back to the early 2000s, when the stadium existed only on paper. At the time, the old Giant Stadium was becoming outdated after more than 30 years of operation. New York City originally planned to build a brand new stadium in Manhattan as part of its bid for the 2012 Olympics. However, the project collapsed because of its enormous cost and strong public opposition. In the end, the new stadium site was moved to the Meadowlands complex in East Rutherford, New Jersey, where MetLife Stadium was eventually constructed at a cost of around $1.6 billion. At the time of completion, it became the most expensive stadium ever built in the United States. From the very beginning, MetLife was designed as a true NFL stadium. From the seating geometry packed tightly against the field, to the extremely close distance between spectators and the sidelines, to the high-durability artificial turf system, everything was built specifically for American football, not soccer. And ironically, those exact design choices later created the need for the massive transformation project ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. In the summer of 2026, over 1 billion people will watch the FIFA World Cup Final at MetLife Stadium. But behind those 90 minutes of football lies a transformation that took years. A stadium originally built for NFL had to change almost everything, from the turf, field dimensions, and seating geometry to the way the entire facility operates. Over 7,000 square meters of natural grass were transported across thousands of kilometers. 1,740 seats and massive concrete corners were removed. Retractable modular stands were installed, turning MetLife into a transforming stadium. Perhaps the most remarkable thing isn't that MetLife is hosting the World Cup Final, but how Americans turned a football fortress into the stage for the biggest match on the planet. If you enjoy stories about mega projects and construction technology, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Mandarin Tech for more videos.